Chapter 890. Dang dang dang. Yichen retreated dozens of steps. His hand holding the evil vanquishing sword was numb, and a trace of blood flowed down. Copper Sword King's sword was extremely powerful, and the sword energy was condensed to an extreme degree. It was as if the power contained in this sword was a whole entity, and didn't need to be condensed or dispersed. On the other hand, no matter how condensed Yichen's sword energy was, in the end a level lower. Sword Yuan. Yichen finally understood why Copper Sword King's sword was somewhat similar to Battle King's Platinum Sword body. It turned out that Copper Sword King also had a sword body, and the Zhen Yuan cultivated by a sword body was also called Sword Yuan. Sword Yuan was like Sword Light, except that other sword artists could only activate Sword Light, while sword bodies could store Sword Light and then display it. Once it was condensed, one would be able to imagine how powerful it would be. In terms of foundation, sword bodies were a level higher. Of course, when a sword body encountered sword domain, it would still be slightly restrained. If not for sword domain, Yichen wouldn't have been pushed back dozens of steps. He would have definitely vomited blood. I thought it was only the first layer of sword domain. I didn't expect it to be the peak of the first layer. Although the gap between the first layer and the peak of the first layer didn't seem that big, Copper Sword King was very clear that if it was only the first layer, it wouldn't have been able to distort his sword's trajectory and deflect it. Take my second sword. Copper Sword King's figure leaped up, and the long sword in his hand trembled. Hundreds of sword flowers enveloped Yichen's body. Each flower carried a spiraling power, and with the help of Sword Yuan, its might was astonishing. Yichen's eyes shone brightly as he pushed sword domain to the limit, trying his best to distort the original trajectory of the sword flowers. At the same time, the evil vanquishing sword slashed out hundreds of times. Ordinary sword skills naturally couldn't block these spiraling sword flowers. Therefore, Yichen used vibration sword arts. Although Yichen hadn't studied vibration sword arts since the life and death secret realm closed, his body had long since become familiar with the power of vibration. Adding on the fact that his spirit body had already broken through to the fifth step, the vibration power was like a breeze to Yichen. Ding ding dang dang. A rain of light exploded around Yichen. The collision of the vibrating force and the spiraling force caused the trajectory of the light rain to be strange and soul-stirring. Vibration power. Copper Sword King squinted his eyes. In his memory, the demonic blade sect's demonic blade arts walked the path of vibration power. In the hands of the demonic blade king, the might of the demonic blade arts was even more terrifying. With one slash, a king of the same realm would definitely be injured, or their weapon would be sent flying. Unless one's strength was a level higher than him, they wouldn't be his opponent. Amazing. Take my third strike. This strike is also an ordinary sword technique. However, unlike ordinary sword techniques, you'll definitely not be able to distort the trajectory of this strike unless you've attained level 2 sword domain. Being unable to deal with Yichen with 2 sword moves, Copper Sword King felt a little embarrassed. With the third sword move, he had to suppress Yichen no matter what. Borrowing the sword or not was secondary. Alright, I also have a sword move. Let's see if Senior can break it. Copper Sword King was a life and death king, and his attack speed far surpassed any sword artist under life and death realm. Adding the fact that he was using an ordinary sword move, his speed was even faster. This left Yichen with no time to use congealing water and bewitching mirror shattering. He could only use the inferior vibrating sword arts. Fortunately, ever since he created the vibrating sword arts, he had gained some insights. Based on Lan Sanmei's demonic chop, he had created a killer move. This killer move's preparation time was very short, and it was all about speed. Spiraling Flying Flower Sword. Spiraling Flying Flower Sword was originally a profound sword move. However, Copper Sword King had said that he wouldn't use a killer move, so he temporarily changed it into an ordinary sword move. It only contained a unique sword energy and no profound. The moment the sword appeared, the space twisted, and numerous spiraling cracks appeared in the space. With Yichen's sword rule at the peak of the first layer of sword domain, it was indeed hard for him to twist the trajectory, unless the opponent was in existence on the same level as him. The evil shattering sword had long since been replaced by the Sky Scorpio sword. Holding the sword with both hands, Yi Chen held his breath and slashed out the moment Copper Sword King's sword arrived. Sky-cutting sword. Ung! A dazzling golden light dyed the space, and the vibrating power instantly reached a peak that Yi Chen couldn't reach under normal circumstances. Kalala! The complete spiraling sword energy and vibrating sword energy collided, and the space shattered like glass. The shattered arc-shaped sword chi and intermittent vibrating sword chi shot toward the two. By relying on sword domain, Yi Chen was unscathed and easily distorted the arc-shaped sword chi. Meanwhile, Copper Sword King's protective sword Yuan was also ridiculously powerful, easily deflecting the vibrating sword chi. On the third move, both sides were evenly matched. Of course, Yi Chen had the advantage of the Sky Scorpio sword. This kid is truly frightening. Retracting his sword and retreating, Copper Sword King gravely sized up Yi Chen. The spiraling flying flower sword was actually between an ordinary sword move and an ultimate move. He originally thought that this move would be enough to defeat Yi Chen, but he didn't expect the opponent to also have such a frightening move. The vibrating power it contained reached a peak in a split second, making his palm somewhat numb. What a frightening spiraling sword energy! Yi Chen also admired Copper Sword King quite a bit. Although each sword flower of Copper Sword King's second sword also contained a spiraling power, it wasn't much. It walked the path of winning through quantity. However, the spiraling power of the third sword was more than 10 times stronger. It even faintly produced a centripetal force, allowing the body to scatter but not the spirit. If not for the Sky Scorpio sword, this move would have disintegrated the muscles of his right arm. In the void, an extremely secretive soul power seeped out. How is this possible? He really didn't die. A spatial power curled around his body, causing the masked man to cry out in surprise. His Thunderfire 4 Sky was his most powerful ace attack. The 4 layers of palm power stacked together was something that even he did not dare to take head-on. Although the stacking would inevitably cause some damage, it was still not something a kid at the peak of the third level of life and death challenge could handle. This made him very confused and angry. Lord is right. This kid's threat is too great. He can't be allowed to enter life and death realm. Otherwise, he'll be an existence comparable to Battle King and Xianhou. No, he might be even more frightening. Quietly retracting his soul power, the masked man prepared to leave. Who's there? Copper Sword King roared and thrust his sword. The spiraling sword energy pierced through the spatial barrier, containing wind profound and metal profound. It was more than 10 times stronger than the third sword, and instantly arrived before the masked man. Puff! The masked man's head was pierced and his soul power scattered. Consciousness projection? Copper Sword King's eyes squinted. He didn't care about killing the masked man in one strike. Ordinary mid-step kings rarely could block his sword. This was the killing power of his sword Yuan. Chapter 891. In the end, Yi Chen's soul power couldn't compare to Copper Sword King's, so he asked, Senior, who is it? It's a consciousness projection with a mask on its face. Copper Sword King smiled bitterly in his heart. His consciousness projection already had the strength of a mid-step king, so his real body was most likely a high-step king. Moreover, he could only be considered a tyrant among mid-step kings, barely able to contend against ordinary high-step kings. The masked man. An image flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Could he be here to see if I'm dead or not? The masked man had no enmity with him, but he wanted him dead. It was obvious that he was specifically targeting him. He could feel an invisible net gradually closing in on him. It was indescribably dangerous. Kid, you've offended quite a lot of people? Copper Sword King turned his head with a gloomy expression. He was sure that the masked man wasn't targeting him. Since it wasn't targeting him, it was obviously targeting Yi Chen. He didn't expect to offend a high-step king for no reason. It would be strange if he wasn't gloomy. Actually, I don't know who he is. How could Yi Chen know that he was being targeted by otherworldly experts? Moreover, he didn't know that Battle King and Xianhou were killed by these people. Forget it. Perhaps I shouldn't have come. Copper Sword King shook his head, dispelling the distracting thoughts, and continued. I said that if you can take 3 of my swords, I won't make things difficult for you. Now that I've done that, I'll keep my word. Many thanks, Senior. For Yi-chun, it was best not to use the image of Yuan Emperor. This was his life-saving trump card. Dispelling the thought of supreme great swords, Copper Sword King became interested in Yi-chun. As far as I know, in the entire Elysium, there are only 5 people with sword domain, and 4 of them are in my Sky Sword continent. Only you aren't from there. TSK. Do you know what the highest level of sword domain is? No. Yi-chun shook his head. 3 levels. Copper Sword King said. The sword domain has a total of 9 layers, but the sword domain is much harder to improve than the spirit body and will. With every layer, the laws of the sword will become several times stronger. If your sword domain reaches the peak of the 2nd layer, then even if I go all out, I might not be able to defeat you easily. At the 3rd layer, as long as your true yuan doesn't run out, then I won't be able to do anything to you. Of course, your strength is still low, so I can't do anything to you, and you can't defeat me either. Copper Sword King possessed sword yuan, so his offense and defense were several times stronger than other kings of the same rank. He could contend against ordinary high-level kings for a while. Of course, if Yi-chun had to choose between 2 opponents, and one was an ordinary high-level king, and the other was Copper Sword King, Yi-chun would rather choose an ordinary high-level king. At the very least, the opponent's defense wouldn't be too excessive. On the other hand, if he chose Copper Sword King, he might not be able to injure him even after exhausting his Zhen Yuan, let alone defeat him. Sky Sword Continent gathers the sword chi of the world, and it even has a strange space sword world. If you have the opportunity, you can go there. It'll be of great help to your sword Dao. Of course, you'd better raise your cultivation base to life and death realm. I can restrain my thoughts of seizing supreme grade swords, but others might not be able to. Dragon Kings don't have long lifespans, and this is something everyone knows. Since he had given up on the supreme grade sword, Copper Sword King decided to befriend Yi-chun. Alright, I'll be leaving first. Copper Sword King didn't want to stay any longer. His figure flickered and disappeared into the void. Sword artists are mostly resolute, and Copper Sword King is no exception. Muttering to himself, Yi-chun turned around and flew in the direction of Eternal Sky Sect. The second appearance of the masked man added a trace of urgency to Yi-chun. With his current strength, he didn't have the confidence to safely escape from the assassination of a high-step king. More importantly, he didn't know if he had the time to summon Yuan Emperor's image or not. This was because high-step kings either didn't make a move, or if they did, it would be a fatal blow. Comprehending the life Dao is the most pressing matter. On Eternal Sky Sect's Elder Peak, Yi-chun let out a long sigh. Suddenly, Yi-chun raised his head. Your senses are quite sharp. Spatial ripples appeared in the secret chamber, and a white-haired old man walked out. Senior Dragon King. A trace of astonishment flickered on Yi-chun's face as he stepped forward and saluted sincerely. Dragon King had a benevolent smile on his face as he said, Every time I see you, I can see you advancing by leaps and bounds. This is truly great. I didn't expect to see 2 powerful juniors grow so quickly before I die. Senior Dragon King, since you can surpass the limit of lifespan, you should be able to extend your lifespan, right? There are indeed methods to extend lifespan, but now is not the time. Moreover, it's practically a dead end. Dragon King's expression turned grave. Dead end? Yi-chun had a bad premonition. It's useless to tell you this now. You'll know in the future. I came this time to understand your progress, and also to bid farewell. Senior wants to challenge that dead end. With Yi-chun's intelligence, he immediately guessed. Everyone dies one day. Being able to die a few years later than others is already heaven's kindness. Dragon King didn't want to linger on this topic, so he said, I can see that you've already comprehended Death Dao. Now, as long as you comprehend Life Dao and verify them, you'll be able to enter Life and Death Realm. However, Life Dao is the most difficult to comprehend. Back then, Yin Girl comprehended Death Dao at the age of 31, and Life Dao at the age of 34. She only entered Life and Death Realm after a year. I have no doubts about your comprehension, but I must warn you that you mustn't be anxious while comprehending Life Dao. The more anxious you are, the further away you will be from Life Tao. You must wholeheartedly immerse yourself in comprehending Life Tao. Sense the existence of nature. Sense the vitality of myriad things. Sense the ordinary things that you normally don't pay attention to. And comprehend the cruelty and darkness of life. Therefore, the reason why many geniuses fail to enter life and death realm is because they walk too far on this path. Senior Dragon King. I believe that I will comprehend Life Tao very soon. Yi Chen was different from others. He had already experienced true life and death once. His arrival was, in fact, obtaining life from death. Of course, it was impossible for him to comprehend Life Tao immediately. What he comprehended was only his own life, and not the lives of myriad things. However, with this as a breakthrough, his starting point was higher than others. That's for the best. Dragon King didn't doubt that Yi Chen's words were meant to reassure him. After dozens of years of observation, both he and Xianhe were very clear about Yi Chen's temperament. To be honest, Yi Chen was very frightening. He had never seen such a frightening youngster before. Many people knew their own weaknesses, but they couldn't avoid them. On the other hand, Yi Chen could always reflect on himself and improve himself. Sometimes, Dragon King even felt that he and Yi Chen weren't people of the same world. It was a very strange feeling. Senior, can't you wait for me to enter life and death realm before attempting that path of death? Yi Chen didn't wish for Dragon King to die. There were certainly many secrets in this world that he didn't know. It's too late. If I don't do it now, I'm afraid I won't have the chance. Dragon King shook his head with a bitter smile. After I leave, I'll leave that girl Su Jing to you. Of course. This is my first time coming to Eternal Sky Sect. Little Li was also a Sword Dao genius back in the day. Unfortunately, he died early and couldn't bring out his full potential. Otherworldly people have always been the cancer of my Elysium. Since ancient times, countless people have died in their hands. Right, I wonder who is guarding Eternal Sky Sect. Perhaps I know him. As he spoke, Dragon King suddenly released his soul power, spreading it out in all directions. What a hidden soul power! I can only sense a trace of fluctuation. If Dragon King wasn't right in front of him, Yi Chen might not have been able to sense the fluctuation of Dragon King's soul power. The reason he could sense it now was because he was mentally prepared. Dragon King's brows creased as he suddenly grabbed Yi Chen's shoulder. His figure flashed and disappeared into the void. The next moment, the space reversed, and Yi Chen and Dragon King appeared in the middle of the mountain range behind Eternal Sky Sect. Yi Chen felt a little dizzy, but he quickly steadied his mind. Senior, what's wrong? There's something strange. There's an extremely mysterious formation below. However, this formation seems to have been slightly damaged, causing its aura to leak out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to discover it. Formation? Yi Chen recalled that he had fought with Poison Fire King and Blood Hand King here. Could that battle have caused the geographical environment to change, exposing this formation? Of course, his soul power wasn't as strong as Dragon King's, so he didn't discover it. Come, let's go down. Dragon King's body glowed with an earthy yellow radiance, like an earth escape technique. He brought Yi Chen down quickly. Along the way, Yi Chen almost couldn't feel the existence of the space. The Dragon King stopped when he reached a depth of 30 to 40,000 meters. Wang. He stretched out his palm, and the earthy yellow radiance spread out. The soil in front of Dragon King was automatically pushed aside, forming a huge underground space. In the middle of the underground space there was an earth ball. The diameter of the earth ball was about 30 meters, perfectly round, without a trace of imperfection. A weak formation ripple was transmitted from it. It's the Fire King's spirit permeating formation. The so-called spirit permeating formation was to prevent soul power from detecting it. When soul power scanned over, it would directly ignore this area, treating it as ordinary soil. Who is Fire King? Dragon King said. When I was young, I had met Fire King a few times. However, he disappeared afterward. If the protector of Eternal Sky Sect is him, then he must have been crowned as an emperor. It wouldn't be wrong to call him Fire Emperor. However, I remember that he was about 70 or 80 years older than me. Fire Emperor is dead. Yi Chen looked at the earth ball. Dead or not, we'll know once we break this spirit-permeating formation. Dragon King closed his eyes, and his soul power seeped into the earth ball, carefully sensing the pattern of the spirit-permeating formation. After a long time, Dragon King opened his eyes. How brilliant! Fortunately, this formation is damaged. It seems that the energy to maintain it is insufficient. Otherwise, I might not be able to break it. Hualala! Dragon King's soul power shook, and the earth ball collapsed, revealing a purple light ball. In the middle of the light ball, there was a figure sitting cross-legged with his head lowered. Chapter 892. It's indeed Fire King. No, it's Fire Emperor. The Dragon King sighed and said, For hundreds of years, I ignored the affairs of the world and hid my tracks. Also that I could devote myself wholeheartedly to cultivation and improve my combat power. Unfortunately, in the end it was all for naught. To think that Senior Fire Emperor is already dead. Yi Chen had always been curious about the monarch protecting Eternal Sky Sect. Today he saw him, but it was just a dead man. If this news were to spread out, Eternal Sky Sect would definitely be on the verge of collapse, and might be destroyed in an instant. After all, the only reason Eternal Sky Sect could survive was because of Fire Emperor's deterrence to the outside world. Senior Dragon King, what level has Senior Fire Emperor reached? Yi Chen asked. The Dragon King said, Back then when I met him, he was already the strongest person under titled monarchs. With his talent and perception that far surpassed mine, ordinary titled monarchs would not be his opponent. He is already very close to being able to leave his mark on the Emperor's Scar Steel. Moreover, I heard that in order to preserve the Eternal Sky Sect, the Fire Emperor had once revealed a trump card. It was this trump card that made the entire Blood Sky continent not dare to touch the Eternal Sky Sect. Not even titled monarchs. Revealing a supreme move to intimidate the entire Blood Sky continent? Right, Senior Battle King had once met an old man who could condense a sun-like fireball. The fireball contained the profound of fire, water, and earth. Moreover, the three profound were already at perfection. Even if they were not completely fused, it was still very terrifying, and could easily destroy a large star. Could that old man be Fire Emperor? Yi Chen had some ideas. Come, let's go in. Fire Emperor should have left some information. Dragon King stepped into the purple light ball, and Yi Chen followed behind. The purple light ball was like nothing, and the two walked in without any obstruction. In their line of sight, Fire Emperor's head was lowered, his face was pale, and his eyes were closed. There was not a trace of vitality in his body. However, the passage of time did not leave any marks on his body. His flesh was still full, without any signs of loosening. The aura he emitted even made it hard for Yi Chen to breathe. The energy has not dissipated, and his body still contains an extremely powerful might. Do not resist or counterattack, or his body will explode, destroying anyone who approaches. Dragon King reminded Yi Chen. Yes. Yi Chen nodded, not daring to do anything inappropriate. In front of the Fire Emperor were 3 jade slips. The Dragon King picked up the first jade slip and said softly, It's a voice recording jade slip. As he poured his true essence into it, a vigorous and slightly aged voice sounded out. Do the heavens really want to destroy my Elysium, and let those otherworldly people do whatever they want? When will my Elysium truly belong to us? Free from the otherworldly oppression, and free to come and go as we please. Unfortunately, I can't wait for that day. Fated One, I have nothing good to give you. In the storage ring, there are many supreme-grade materials and millions of supreme-grade spirit stones. The 2 jade slips contain my 2 top-grade profound martial skills, Sunlight Sky, and Merciless Water and Fire. Comprehend them well. I really hope that you can break through the otherworldly oppression and become the first person in my Elysium since ancient times. One day, you can avenge the blood feud of my Elysium. Perhaps this is an extravagant hope, but hope is better than despair. That's all. I'm tired. The voice gradually weakened. Yi Chen and the Dragon King remained silent for a long time. The Fire Emperor's voice was filled with unwillingness, both for himself and for the common people of Elysium. This kind of deep unwillingness made his tone extremely infectious. Yi Chun and the Dragon King felt as if they were there, stifling a mouthful of anger in their hearts. 6-star battle strength. Hee, even 6-star battle strength can't break through. I'm afraid I won't be able to escape either. But my time is up, and I have no choice but to go, the Dragon King said in a low voice. Yi Chun asked again, Senior Dragon King, what star battle strength do you have? From the Fire Emperor's words, it wasn't hard for Yi Chun to guess that the so-called star battle strength was used to evaluate the strength of life and death kings. I have 5-star battle strength. At present, apart from a few hidden old monsters, the highest is 5-star battle strength, such as Su King, Air Emperor and me. Of course, 5-star battle strength also varies. Su King and the rest have already reached the high level of 5-star battle strength, and I'm a bit lacking. Little Yin Girl has also almost reached this level. Su King and Air Emperor have 5-star battle strength. Yi Chun's brows creased. In that case, low-level kings should have 1-star battle strength. Mid-level kings should have 2-star battle strength. High-level kings should have 3-star battle strength. Peak kings should have 4-star battle strength. Entitled emperors should have 5-star battle strength. Senior Dragon King was the strongest among peak kings, having broken through 4-star battle strength and reached 5-star battle strength. Senior Suanho was also the same. If Senior Yuan Emperor didn't die, he should be stronger than Senior Fire Emperor, at least 7-star battle strength. Yi Chun guessed inwardly. Dragon King's next words confirmed Yi Chun's conjecture. To leave a mark on the Emperor's scar steel, 7-star battle strength is the bottom line. However, this kind of person hasn't appeared in several tens of thousands of years. Even 6-star battle strength is rare. I've lived for more than 1,000 years, and as far as I know, there are only 2 or 3 6-star battle strength. Fire Emperor is one, and Sky Martial Region's Undying Old Ancestor is another. As for the third, I'm not too sure. However, Elysium cannot be without titled monarchs. Therefore, the standard for titled monarchs has dropped to 5-star battle strength. Because I rarely reveal my true strength, I haven't been titled monarch. Of course, this is meaningless to me. Dragon King continued to explain. Senior Dragon King, Senior Fire Emperor said to charge through the path of death? Yi Chun couldn't help but be curious. Nodding, Dragon King said, yes. Since ancient times, have many people tried to charge through this path of death? Seeing Yi Chun asking so many questions, Dragon King knew that if he didn't reveal a bit, it would only make Yi Chun have more distracting thoughts. To charge through the path of death, one has to have at least 5-star battle strength. However, this was the ancient era. After that, the path of death became a true path of death. You should know some of the records of the 4 extreme great emperor. He once charged through the path of death. Unfortunately, he failed and even suffered from irrecoverable injuries. Even the 4 extreme great emperor failed. Yi Chun couldn't help sucking in a deep breath. The 4 extreme great emperor was a titled monarch who left his mark on the emperor's scar steel. His battle strength was at least at the 7-star rank. If even he failed, how could the Dragon King succeed? Don't worry, the path of death has fluctuations. Moreover, if one's luck is extremely good, even 5-star battle strength can pass through. Over 1,000 years ago, a titled monarch with 5-star battle strength passed through the path of death. Of course, it's also normal if one fails. In any case, even if I don't try, I'll still die. There's no hope, so I might as well try my luck. Yi Chun faintly nodded. He knew that the Dragon King had already made up his mind. If he didn't attempt it now, his chances would grow smaller and smaller. Before death, one's body would be in a very poor state. Although the Dragon King was a life and death king, and his condition couldn't be that bad, he would still be affected. Only in the final radiance of the setting sun would he be able to erupt with his peak battle strength. Unfortunately, that would be the time of his death. I'll leave Fire Emperor's storage ring and top-grade profound martial skills for you. Although you cultivate sword Dao and research sword moves, you can use Fire Emperor's profound martial skills to perfect your own sword arts. If your sword arts can reach Fire Emperor's level, you'll have peak 5-star battle strength at the very least. The Dragon King waved his hand, and the storage ring on Fire Emperor's finger fell off, along with the 2 jade strips on the ground, into Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen didn't decline. He knew that these things were useless to the Dragon King. In a moment, I'll rearrange this place and conceal the aura of this place. Remember, don't tell anyone about Fire Emperor's death, not even Eternal Sky Sex people. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Before you reach life and death realm, you can only be careful. Yi Chen understands. Yi Chen naturally wouldn't reveal the news of Fire Emperor's death. The two walked out of the purple light sphere. The Dragon King formed a seal with both hands, and an astonishing earthen yellow radiance covered the purple light sphere. Soon, the purple light sphere was once again covered by the earthen sphere. Not a single trace of aura leaked out. Even when Yi Chen used his soul power to probe, he couldn't find anything inside. His soul power directly passed through. Go, let's go. After arranging everything, the Dragon King grabbed Yi Chen and teleported to the secret chamber, where Yi Chen was previously staying. Letting out a breath, the Dragon King instructed one last time. Once the news of my death spreads, Dragon God's Celestial Palace will be in grave danger. Little girl Yan's strength is weak, and she won't be able to protect Dragon God's Celestial Palace. However, I've already arranged the true elites of Dragon God's Celestial Palace into a secret realm. Little girl Su Jing is also there. When you hear the news of Dragon God's Celestial Palace's destruction, don't be impulsive. As long as you're alive, everything can be restarted. Yi Chen didn't speak. He could only feel his blood boiling and burning. This is the Dragon Pearl for finding secret realms. It's better than yours. As for how to enter secret realms, there are detailed records inside. Spend some time, and you should be able to learn it. The Dragon King took out a golden dragon pearl from his storage ring and handed it over to Yi Chen. Yi Chen could sense the aura of a giant dragon contained within the golden dragon ball, which was very similar to the aura emitted by Su Jing. The moment he held the golden dragon ball in his hand, he seemed to have a connection with some place. However, this connection was very vague, and it was hard for him to find it with his current cultivation. I'm leaving. I'll leave everything to you. The Dragon King raised his head, his gaze piercing through the secret chamber and landing on the boundless starry sky. Senior Dragon King, take care. Yi Chen cupped his fists and bowed. Buzz! The next moment, the Dragon King's body disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the boundless starry sky. A white light flickered as the Dragon King flew toward the depths of the starry sky. Raising his head and straightening his body, Yi Chen took a few deep breaths. My strength is still too weak. Senior Dragon King doesn't even tell me some secrets, fearing that I'll take risks and affect my comprehension of life Tao. Chapter 893. The 2 jade slips left behind by the Fire Emperor contained top-grade profound martial arts. Even the Void Emperor and Space Emperor might not be able to research such a level of martial arts, because it was too difficult to fuse several kinds of profound together. Even if they could be fused, they would need to create a profound enough martial arts framework. Both were indispensable. Yi Chen didn't plan to learn these 2 peak profound martial skills at the moment. It wasn't that he didn't fancy them, nor did he think he couldn't learn them. Rather, he didn't want to be distracted. The most important thing for him at the moment was to comprehend the life Tao, then verify the death Tao and life Tao, and enter life and death realm. The moment he entered life and death realm, he would be able to enter the state of being one with the heavens at all times. Comprehending anything would be several times faster, perhaps even 10 times faster. However, when I enter life and death realm, I'll need peak 3-star battle strength. Otherwise, I'll be lacking. Peak 3-star battle strength was equivalent to peak high-step kings, second only to peak kings. At present, Yi Chen was more or less an ordinary mid-step king, far from this level. A slightly stronger high-step king could kill him in one move, and a powerful high-step king could easily kill him from hundreds, or even thousands of li away, not to mention peak kings. It could be said that the further one went, the greater the disparity between levels would become. This was because it was no longer a disparity in cultivation base, but a disparity in battle strength. 1 was 1, and 2 was 2. Even Yi Chen couldn't defeat a 3-star battle strength expert, with 2-star battle strength. If he could, then Yi Chen wouldn't just be a 2-star battle strength expert, but a 3-star battle strength expert. Gao Ziyuan, this sword is for you. In Supreme Elder's palace, Yi Chen took out the 100 Eras sword. With a shake of his hand, the sword stabbed into the ground beside Gao Ziyuan, overflowing with sword qi. Supreme Elder? Gao Ziyuan revealed a hesitant expression. He could see that this sword contained an extremely powerful immortal power, even stronger than his immortal sword intent. As far as he was concerned, this sword was no weaker than a pseudo-supreme grade sword. You've already become a half-step king. How can you not have a good sword? It had been half a year since Yi Chen had arrived at the school. During this time, because of Yi Chen, the school's development was not bad. The number of disciples had doubled. However, there were only a few who could be considered as the core of the school. Gao Ziyuan did not disappoint, and had successfully become a half-step king half a month ago. A genius half-step king was different from an ordinary half-step king, but their weapons had to be up to par. Yi Chen did have a semi-supreme grade sword in his storage ring, but it was not as good as the 100 Eras sword. The immortal sword intent contained within the 100 Eras sword was extremely compatible with Gao Ziyuan. In his hands, the 100 Eras sword was just an ordinary pseudo-supreme grade sword. Thank you, Grand Elder. Gao Ziyuan bowed in gratitude. Alright, I'll be leaving Eternal Sky Sect for a period of time. It might be 1 year or 2 years. During this period, Eternal Sky Sect will be relying on you to protect it. With you and Elder Lu, Eternal Sky Sect should not be bullied. Elder Lu's dementia was actually caused by a blood clot in his head. As time passed and Yi Chen gave him precious pellets, he had gradually recovered. With Elder Lu and Gao Ziyuan, unless someone wanted to invade Eternal Sky Sect, there should be no problem. Don't worry, Great Elder. Ziyuan will protect Eternal Sky Sect. Even when Eternal Sky Sect was in a difficult situation, Gao Ziyuan could persevere, let alone now. On the second day, Yi Chen left Eternal Sky Sect. To comprehend the life Tao, one had to walk more and see more. Rumble! Above the surging ocean, black clouds covered the sky. A powerful whirlwind swept up the seawater, forming water pillars that connected the sky and the earth. Silver lightning snakes shot through the sky. Occasionally, some of them would entangle together, forming a thick lightning dragon. The frightening electricity even numbed the air. Under the black clouds, a silhouette was flying. Nature also has its own unique life. When it's not angry, it's calm and tranquil. But once it's angry, the winds and clouds change, filling the sky with killing intent. Lightning snakes struck Yi Chen's body from time to time, dispersing the water pillars that connected the sky, and the earth wanted to pull Yi Chen over. In such a vile environment, even an astral-reaching expert would have to be careful. The storms of the endless ocean couldn't be compared to the storms of the continent. Of course, for Yi Chen, it was nothing more than a tickle. The range of the storm was limited. After flying for several tens of thousands of li, Yi Chen left the storm zone. The sky turned sunny again. Compared to the black storm zone behind him, it was like heaven and hell. A rainbow hung in the sky. Yi Chen faintly seemed to have comprehended something, but it also seemed to be nothing. My comprehension is still not enough. Yi Chen continued his journey. That giant whale most likely can't beat the sea snake. On the endless ocean, battles were taking place all the time. Territorial disputes between sea beasts could be seen everywhere. In Yi Chen's vision, a 9th-grade giant whale and a 9th-grade sea snake were fighting. The billows they raised were not inferior to a small storm. The seawater surged for 1,000 meters. The sky was sometimes clear, and sometimes dark clouds covered the sky. Sometimes gales blew chaotically, and sometimes lightning snakes struck. In the chaotic whirlpool, the island-like giant whale and the several thousand meters long sea snake were entangled. If an ordinary person saw this scene, their legs would probably tremble in fear. In the end, the sea snake bit the giant whale, and its poison entered the giant whale's body through its teeth. The giant whale gradually stopped struggling, its vitality completely gone. Nature is cruel. It's natural selection, survival of the fittest. Although Yi Chen had known about this before, he had rarely calmed down and tried to understand the meaning behind it. It was like there were some things that everyone could understand and say, but those who could truly understand the deeper meaning behind it were few and far between. Nature had a cruel side, but it also had a gentle side. Along the way, Yichen passed by a lot of islands. The islands were covered in lush greenery, and people lived peacefully. Farmers farmed, fishermen went out to sea to catch fish, and women took care of their children, doing housework. Yichen saw sincere smiles on their faces. Sometimes Yichen would live on the islands for a while, farming, fishing, playing with children, chatting with some elders, listening to their stories when they were young, as well as their understanding of life. Gradually, stubble started to grow on Yichen's face, which was getting thicker and thicker. However, his handsome appearance was enough to make a lot of girls fall head over heels for him. The pirates are here! The pirates are here! The fisherman ran down from the boat and shouted mournfully. Yichen looked over. On the ocean, dozens of fully armed battleships were approaching. The flags of these battleships all had white skulls as the background. There were martial artists on the island as well, but the most powerful ones were only at the Clasping Yuan realm, and there were only a few of them. Most of them were at the mortal realm. This was just an ordinary island. Haha, kill all the men, and bring back the pretty girls. On the leading battleship, a one-eyed man laughed arrogantly. The pirates behind him also laughed, their gazes vicious. This kind of ordinary life island was completely worthless to them. They could only vent their desires on some beautiful women, and then throw them into the sea to feed the fish. This wasn't the first time they had done such a thing. Young man, I know you're a powerful martial artist, but there are too many of them. You'd better run. The old man who often chatted with Yichen urged Yichen. Don't worry, old man. It's just some pirates. A cold light flickered in Yichen's eyes. Although he was comprehending the Tao of life, which had both a beautiful and dark side, he was comprehending life and death, not ignoring it. Leaping up, Yichen pulled out the evil vanquishing sword and slashed at the ocean. The frightening sword light was thousands of meters long, cutting a deep ravine in the ocean. Even the bottom of the ocean could be seen as it smashed forward with an irresistible force. Ah, it's a top expert. Run. Before the pirates even got close to the island, they were already scared out of their wits, desperately turning their ships around. Swoosh. All the battleships were cut open, and the pirates within the sword light's attack range were directly turned into ashes. The surrounding pirates were also affected by the sword wind, and turned into blood mist. One sword, and they were all dead. Rumble. The seawater poured in, filling up the cut open by the sword light. On the island, everyone was dumbfounded. So he's a top expert. I thought he was just an ordinary wandering martial artist. Some of the girls were sad. This kind of Yichen, they were not good enough for him. The pirates were destroyed, but Yichen understood that he could help for a while, but not forever. To survive in this world, he had to be powerful enough. There was a young genius on the island with a Clasping Yuan cultivation base. Seeing how powerful Yichen was, he sincerely came to take him as his master. Yichen taught him for a few days, and left him some resources before leaving. After he left, the young man might die at the hands of the pirates, or he might become a world-shaking expert. Who knew the future? Yichen had only given him a hope of becoming an expert. In the boundless starry sky, there was a place that was dark and unfathomable. Bang! 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 In the depths of the chaos, light flickered, and a frightening aura filled the starry sky. Ah! In the next moment, a loud cry was heard, and a blood mist was struck out of the chaos, sprinkling on a small star nearby. The star trembled slightly and blood flowed out. A mere 5-star battle strength dares to barge into this place? Truly reckless. A voice came from the depths of the chaos. Hee, 1,000 years ago, a 5-star battle strength expert sneaked out while we weren't paying attention. Perhaps they thought they could get out with good luck. That kind of thing only happens once in 10,000 times. With us guarding this place, not a single person from Elysium will be able to get out. Of course. But, next time someone comes, let me take action. I haven't taken action in a long time, and the time for my rotation is almost here. Chapter 894. Rest assured, There will be plenty of opportunities. Once a great battle breaks out, someone will definitely escape. At that time, I won't fight with you. Hee, these words of yours are enough. Unfortunately, this is not our world. If we force our way in, we'll suffer a fundamental injury. Otherwise, we could also go in and slaughter, and plunder the resources without restraint. With our strength, who could stop us? No rush. Countless years have passed, and Elysium is getting weaker and weaker. We're not far from success. Let's hope that day comes soon. The voices grew weaker and weaker until there was nothing left. On the nearby stars, blood was flowing everywhere. Some places had deep holes in them. It was hard to imagine how the blood could still have such power, even after crossing such a long distance. Kacha! A mound of earth suddenly bulged up on the surface of the star. The mound split open, and a figure drilled out. The dead end is indeed a dead end. Dragon King is also dead. 3,000 years of cultivation turned into blood splattering everywhere. The people of this world are simply too powerful. Unless those titled monarchs of my Elysium, who can leave their marks on the Emperor's scar steel, come back to life, there's no way of crossing the dead end. The blood doesn't have the slightest bit of vitality. Impossible. A blood sphere floated in the figure's hand. The blood sphere didn't have the slightest trace of vitality. How is it blood? It was more like a red liquid. Dragon King was the one with the highest cultivation base among the human kings of Elysium. He had naturally reached the realm of blood rebirth. Although the difference in strength was too great, blood rebirth would be useless. The opponent could completely extinguish any vitality in the blood. But no matter what, it would at least leave behind some vitality. Creasing his brows, the figure pondered hard. On the boundless ocean, the number of pirates was innumerable. The smaller pirate groups only had a few hundred people, and the highest cultivation base was only at astral reaching realm. The bigger pirate groups had more than 10,000 people, some even reaching several tens of thousands. They had Sea of Soul realm experts, and even Sea of Soul masters overseeing them. Wherever they went, countless people would be slaughtered, and countless islands would become barren. Facing pirates, Yichen only had one word for them, and that was to kill. Along the way, Yichen didn't know how many people he had killed. Perhaps it was hundreds of thousands. Perhaps it was over 1 million. Life was cruel, and now he was the embodiment of cruelty against pirates. Death is unchanging, like a pool of stagnant water. Life is ever-changing. It can blossom like fireworks, rumble like cannon fire, sprout like grass, or be cruel like purgatory. Life is an unknown. No one knows where it will lead, or where it will lead. Because it is ever-changing, I don't have to limit myself to passive comprehension. I want to actively approach the origin of life. If a life and death king were here, they would be astonished by Yi Chen's comprehension of life Tao. If death was static, then life was moving. Static things would never change, but moving things would always change. It was precisely because of the existence of life that there were so many changes in the world. There were so many civilizations. Life could be said to be the true essence of a complete world. All sorts of signs indicated that Yichen wasn't far from comprehending life Tao, and he didn't spend much time on it. On a small island covered in pure white snow, Yichen stopped slaughtering and returned to his original state. Life was not just a beautiful bloom. There would always be a time when a thin stream would flow for a long time. Alone on the small island, Yichen's heart was strangely tranquil, like an ancient well without any ripples. His heart was like a clear mirror, and everything that had happened before flashed through his heart like a clear mirror. On the lakeside, Yichen built a small wooden hut. At this moment, the snow had melted, welcoming spring. The withered grass by the lakeside began to sprout, growing a little bit every day. Every day there would be a change. Winter has passed, and all living things have recovered. A light flickered in Yichen's heart, as if he had grasped something. Day after day passed, and the snow-covered island turned into a green world, full of vitality. Life bloomed here, not changing because of the changes in the outside world. So that's how it is. No matter how many changes life has, its ultimate goal is to prove its existence. Be it slaughter, cruelty, darkness, gentleness, or beauty, it's all just a process. It's only a path leading to the origin of life. Life is the true essence of existence. Bang! As if a thunderbolt had flashed through his mind, Yi Chen suddenly felt enlightened. He took a deep breath, and the air was incomparably fragrant. At this moment, Yi Chen had finally comprehended Life Tao. As soon as he comprehended Life Tao, the life and death aura emanating from Yi Chen's body also underwent a huge change. Originally, the death aura was suppressing the life aura, but now the two auras were on par. However, compared to ordinary peak third-layer life and death chamber experts, Yi Chen's life and death aura was more than twice as powerful. All that was left was a kick to the door of life and death realm. Since Yi Chen's life Tao had just been formed, the life and death aura uncontrollably leaked out. Wherever it touched, flowers bloomed and withered, and plants that flourished to the extreme gradually withered. It was quite similar to the scene in Life and Death's secret realm, but not as mysterious and profound. Break. Without Zhen Yuan or profound, Yi Chen lightly pressed his palm on a boulder by the lakeside. Puff. The boulder turned into dust, and dust fluttered in the air. After comprehending Death Tao and Life Tao, even if Yi Chen's realm didn't increase, his battle strength had increased by a level. That palm just now contained both the corrosion of Death aura and the eruption of Life aura. Life Tao has been formed. Next, I'll have to verify Death Tao and Life Tao to enter Life and Death realm. Life Tao was hard to comprehend, but the verification of Death Tao and Life Tao was a bit easier. Of course, this required time and couldn't be accomplished in one go. While Yi Chen was comprehending the Life Tao, countless people were searching for his traces. All of them were clad in blood-red robes, and their expressions were grim. Lord, I can't find him here. Lord, I can't find his trace. Lord, someone here has seen him, but he has left heading north. The masked man was holding a conch, from which a voice could be heard from time to time. Damn it! I must find him as soon as possible. The masked man's body was solid, and his aura was powerful. It was clearly his main body, and not a consciousness projection. After learning that Yi Chen had left Eternal Sky Sect and Blood Sky Continent, the masked man personally chased after him, accompanied by 4 life and death kings. Each of them had more than 1,000 blood-robed guards under their command. These blood-robed guards were all candidates for the Blood Sea's 50 pirates. Of course, some of them were still in the nurturing stage, and the resources they consumed could even bring down a 5th-grade sect. Moreover, these people were destined not to live for long. Each of them was overdrafting their life force to stimulate their potential. Chapter 895. Death and life are only one cycle. I've known this for a long time. How to find the common point between them and link them together should be the secret to breaking through to life and death realm. Now that he had completed both Death Tao and Life Tao, what Yi Chen needed to do was to link them together and form a whole. At the lakeside, Yi Chen's left hand was filled with Death Qi, while his right hand blossomed with Life Qi. As his two hands approached each other, the Death Qi and Life Qi cancelled each other out, giving birth to a vague ripple. This is the ripple. After thousands of confirmations, Yi Chen finally sensed this ripple. This ripple had neither life nor death, connecting life and death. Not far from the wooden house, a huge red wolf was lying on its stomach. Its head was filled with eyes, but most of them were closed. The ones that weren't were only opened by a sliver. It was this sliver that allowed its dark green eyes to leak out. The surroundings became grotesque because of this gaze. Butterflies flew upside down, grass grew into towering trees, and ants turned into demons. The illusory and the real were sewn together because of its gaze. Compared to a few years ago, the current dream-eating wolf was even more powerful. Its body was also emitting a faint life and death qi, and its red fur was flickering with a deep killing intent. These days, it had been observing how Yi Chen verified life and death, and it had benefited a lot. Master is too powerful. If I follow him, I'm afraid I'll become a beast king within 10 years, or even shorter. When it was subdued by Yi Chen, the dream-eating wolf was already a 10th-grade demonic beast. After swallowing a wind-fire pellet, the dream-eating wolf had been in a state of hibernation. Later on, Yi Chen gave it a frighteningly high-quality supreme-grade demonic power crystal, allowing it to become a half-step beast king without any obstructions. Moreover, the energy consumed by the demonic power crystal was almost negligible. Right now, watching Yi Chen verify life and death, the dream-eating wolf had also stepped into the first layer of life and death chamber. Its battle power and dreamscape creation ability had increased by more than 10 folds. Even ordinary life and death kings would be somewhat affected. Why aren't you verifying it? Dream-eating wolf raised his head slightly and looked at Yi Chen in surprise. Slowly letting out a breath, Yi Chen said calmly, "Someone is approaching. He's an enemy, not a friend." Roar. Hearing this, the dream-eating wolf stood up, raised its head and growled. The fur on its body stood straight, and its body seemed to have swelled up. It was extremely ferocious. In this world, there were countless secret techniques. Some focused on offense, some focused on defense, and some were purely auxiliary secret techniques. After being brainwashed by otherworldly experts, the blood-robed guards were all extremely loyal. Therefore, they were bestowed with a probing secret technique similar to the heavenly vision and earthly hearing great art. This secret technique didn't belong to Elysium, but was called the soul-searching great art. The soul-searching great art could restrain soul power and spread it out in a fan shape. Moreover, its range was 100 times greater than normal. An ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert's range was 100 li, but the soul-searching great art could allow one's range to reach 10,000 li. Of course, it was only in a fan shape and couldn't cover all directions. However, it was already very frightening. Apart from this, the soul-searching great art had another extremely frightening aspect, which was that it could lock onto living things. There was no need to probe inch by inch, and it could save a lot of soul power. Relying on the soul-searching great art, a group of blood-robed guards discovered Yi Chen from 9,000 li away. "Lord, the target has been discovered. It's the same as the portrait." A blood-robed guard who seemed to be a captain raised a small conch and spoke into it. "What? Found him? But he's very far from here. Bloodblade King, you're the closest. You go first. Remember, even if you can't defeat him, you have to tie him down. Give me half an hour. Once I'm there, he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings." The masked man was overjoyed. Among the 30 blood-robed guards, there would be a captain equipped with a locating stone. Relying on the sensing of the stone, the masked man could easily determine the distance between the two and immediately order Bloodblade King, who was the closest, to intercept Yi Chen. "Don't worry, he can't escape. My blade thirsts for the blood of peerless geniuses." Bloodblade King was a blood-haired middle-aged man. He licked his lips and grinned. Puff! Space ruptured as Bloodblade King fled in the direction of the captain. Soon, Bloodblade King arrived at his destination. "Where is he?" Bloodblade King opened his mouth and asked. The captain pointed ahead and said, "He's on that island." "Not good, he's leaving." "Leave? Where do you think he's going?" A distance of 9,000 li was meaningless to Bloodblade King. Space ruptured, and when he reappeared, he was already on the island. He slashed at Yi Chen, who was about to fly away. Rumble! Blood-colored blade light enveloped the heaven and earth. The island brimming with vitality was cut in two, and seawater surged. He can be considered a well-known figure among mid-step kings. Dodging the blood-colored blade light, Yi Chen floated in the air. According to the might of Bloodblade King's strike, he judged that Bloodblade King's strength was twice that of the masked man's consciousness projection. If it were before, he would definitely not be his opponent. But now that might not be the case. Unsheathing the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen retaliated. This strike was too fast, and Bloodblade King only had time to raise his blade to block. Dang! A loud sound rang out as Bloodblade King's entire body was blown away. Blood splattered from his right arm that was holding the blade. His muscles disintegrated, and terrifying cracks appeared on his bones. What? The might of this strike? Bloodblade King was astonished. As far as he knew, Yi Chen's battle strength was equivalent to an ordinary mid-step king. Since when did he become so powerful? It was 2 or 3 times stronger. While I was comprehending the Tao of life, although I didn't try to comprehend the profoundness, my water and space profoundness naturally improved a little. 90% completed water and metal profoundness perfectly balanced each other, and their power increased more than twofold. The congealing water sword art has also entered the ranks of high-rank profoundness sword arts. Yi Chen sneered. High-grade profound martial arts varied in strength and weakness. The weak ones had 2 profounds at 90% completion, while the strong ones had both profounds at large completion. For example, the Masked Man's Lightning Fire Profound was one of the more powerful high-grade profound martial arts. His Lightning Fire Profounds were extremely close to large completion. Yi Chen had no hope against him, but against Bloodblade King, his advantage was obvious. After all, Yi Chen still had the 6th-step Destruction Sword Intent, and the Supreme Grade Sky Scorpio Sword. This kid is troublesome. Let's tie him down first. Bloodblade King changed his strategy. He alone was not Yi Chen's opponent. This kid's improvement speed was simply unimaginable. If he didn't get rid of him today, he might not be able to do so even if he paid 10 times the price in the future. Trying to stall for time, Yi Chen didn't believe that there was only one life and death king chasing after him. There were certainly more powerful ones behind. If he didn't deal with Bloodblade King as soon as possible, he would be doomed. Fine, I'll use you to test my bewitching mirror shattering. With his water profound at 90% completion, Yi Chen's space profound had also reached 50%. 50% space profound was equivalent to 150% ordinary profounds. As for its might, even Yi Chen himself wasn't clear. He only knew that it had already surpassed congealing water sword art, becoming Yi Chen's strongest move once again. Die! With a deep roar, Yi Chen's entire body leaped up like a rock spreading its wings. With a few sudden thrusts, he arrived before Bloodblade King and slashed out. Buzz! The space condensed into a mirror, embedding itself in the void. Bloodblade King's eyes were wide open, unable to move. In the next moment, the mirror condensed from space power, shattered into thousands of fragments. These fragments no longer flew in all directions, but revolved around Bloodblade King's body, as if he was being executed by 1,000 cuts. Bloodblade King's body was riddled with holes. He didn't fear ordinary space power, but these spatial fragments were condensed from a large amount of compressed space power. Compressed water could even cut steel, not to mention space power. Protecting his head with all his might, his peak semi-supreme grade armor started to crack. From this, one could see how powerful the spatial fragments were. If it were an ordinary semi-supreme grade artifact, how could it possibly block them? Even so, Bloodblade King still suffered extremely frightening injuries. Life and death kings are indeed hard to kill, unless I can strike a vital point. Relying on sword domain, Yi Chen sealed the space around Bloodblade King, making it impossible for him to break through. Moreover, Yi Chen's speed had also reached the limit of the space. In an instant, he arrived before Bloodblade King and thrust. Congealing water sword art. Erupt. Clang. The Bloodblade and Bloodblade King's hand was sent flying. Sword light flickered, and Bloodblade King's head spun in the air. Puff. Yi Chen thrust again, shattering Bloodblade King's head. Go! After instantly killing Bloodblade King, Yi Chen collected Bloodblade King's Bloodblade and storage ring without the slightest hesitation, then immediately used his movement art and flew away. In a few breaths' time, Yi Chen had already flown 1,000 li away. Lord, not good. Bloodblade King was killed by the target, and he's escaping. He's about to escape from my perception. Several thousand li away, the captain of the blood-robed guard anxiously said to Conk. What? Bloodblade King was killed? What's going on? The masked man's face was full of disbelief. He was well aware of Bloodblade King's strength, which was at least twice as strong as his consciousness projection. Moreover, he had told the latter that if he couldn't beat the latter, he would choose to fight. Could it be that Bloodblade King was too careless? The Bloodstrike Guard captain relayed what he sensed to the masked man. Bastard! His progress is so fast. He must be eliminated. Lord is right. This kid's potential is rarely seen since ancient times. He's a huge threat. The masked man's face was gloomy. Only after hearing the captain's description did he realize how frightening Yi Chen was. This kind of progress was simply 1,000 li in a day. It should be known that ordinary people would not make any progress for several years after breaking through. Everyone listen up. Speed up the search. The masked man ordered loudly. Chapter 896. I refuse to believe that you won't die this time. The masked man was extremely confident in his strength. He was a high-step king with 3-star battle strength. Even if Yi Chun had improved greatly, he wouldn't be able to withstand a single palm strike from him. Even if Copper Sword King, who had destroyed his consciousness projection, came over, he was confident that he could deal with him within 3 palms. The gap between 2-star and 3-star battle strength was real, and not just for show. Of course, the premise was that he had to catch up to Yi Chun. If he couldn't, he wouldn't be able to do anything no matter how powerful he was. Run! To the north of Blood Sky Continent is the boundless ocean. The further you are from the continent, the less people will be able to save you. Xianhou spent 3 years comprehending Life Tao, and 1 year to become a life and death king. No matter how talented you are, you'll still need 2 to 3 years. The masked man didn't believe that Yi Chun could break through to life and death realm in a short time. Iron Arm King, do you think this Yi Chun is so powerful? Although Blood Blade King is weaker than us, he at least had mid 2-star battle strength. How come he couldn't beat Yi Chun, and was even killed? A fierce-looking man with a curly beard was conversing with another life and death king through a conch. Yi Chun is called the most frightening genius after Yuan Emperor by Lord, and it's not without reason. Even Xianhou is a bit weaker than him. Having this kind of battle strength is understandable. Moreover, think about it, he actually raised his destruction sword intent to the 6th step. How frightening is that? Beard King, you'd better not be careless if you meet him. Don't let your boat capsize in the gutter happen. Iron Arm King's arms were extremely thick, and his muscles seemed to be bursting with power. Beard King nodded. Right, 6th step destruction sword intent. He hasn't entered life and death realm yet. If he enters life and death realm, and develops for a few decades, he might even create a miracle and possess 7-star battle strength, comparable to the ancient people. Whether he can reach 7-star battle strength or not, I don't know. However, I'm certain that if he's allowed to grow, he'll reach 6-star battle strength for sure. Therefore, we must eliminate him to relieve Lord's worries. Iron Arm King's eyes turned cold. Of course, Beard King's eyes also turned cold. On another part of the ocean, a huge gray bird was flying at an extremely fast speed. Sometimes, it would enter the void to travel, and sometimes, it would break through space to probe with its soul power. The Lord said that whoever kills Yi Chun will be rewarded with a profoundness bead. A profoundness bead is a treasure even in the endless starry sky. It can help me comprehend profoundness faster and increase my battle prowess. This is a rare opportunity, and I can't give it to others. I have to kill Yi Chun myself. The Gray Bird was a demon king, and was called the Gray Bird King. Speed had always been his advantage. As long as he received news of Yi Chun, he would immediately chase after him. This is where I first discovered Yi Chun. Alright, with my speed, I'll be able to catch up soon. Back then, Bloody Blade Monarch had been the closest to Yi Chun, followed by Grey Bird Monarch. The Masked Man and Iron Arm Monarch were the furthest. Puff! With a flap of his wings, Grey Bird King instantly disappeared. In the depths of the void, there was no limit to one's speed, unlike the outside, where one couldn't increase their speed after reaching the limit of the space. Once they did, they would have to escape into the void. In the void, life and death kings were fine, since their Zhen Yuan could completely resist the pressure of the space. However, for those below life and death realm, it would be very difficult to survive in the depths of the void. Even if they could survive, their Zhen Yuan would be quickly exhausted, and the rate of consumption far surpassed life and death kings. Moreover, the omnipresent spatial power in the void could shrink the distance to an inch. A life and death king could traverse several tens of thousands of li in a single breath. After flying for several million li, Grey Bird King broke through the space barrier and rushed out. Great soul-searching art. His soul power spread out in a fan shape, covering hundreds of thousands of li, a total of 14 lives. Found it. It's him. Grey Bird King's eyes blossomed with a frightening light. I've been discovered. Yi Chun could feel an extremely faint soul power scanning his body. Open. Opening the silver vertical eye on his forehead, Yi Chen turned his head. His soul eye was much more frightening than the great soul-searching art. In a straight line it could cover 10 million li. Not only did he discover Greybird King, he also discovered Beard King. Greybird King was only a few 100,000 li away, while Beard King was 7 million li away. With the speed of life and death kings, the two were very close. Since I can't escape, I can only kill. I'll cut off that demonic beast king first, then the one behind. Greybird King and Beard King's aura were a bit stronger than Bloodblade King's, but not by much. Perhaps they had some trump cards, but so did Yi Chen. Haha. Die. A distance of several 100,000 li was nothing to Greybird King. In 10 breaths, he broke through the space barrier and blocked in front of Yi Chen. Bewitching mirror shattering. Just like how he dealt with Poison Hand King and Blood Hand King, Yi Chen took advantage of the fact that the other side didn't understand him and couldn't discover him. The space was compressed into a mirror, sealing Greybird King within. Pung. Poochie. 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 The mirror shattered, and the revolving spatial fragments slashed at Greybird King's body. Feathers and blood flew everywhere, and a conical spatial fragment even pierced through his abdomen. Greybird King screamed miserably, unable to raise his head. Flying feather demonic slaughter. Greybird King was, after all, a demonic beast king. Both his protective demonic energy and physical strength surpassed Bloodblade King's. The king-grade demonic energy within his body erupted as he used his innate ability. One after another, feathers shot out like 10,000 arrows. Each of them carried a frightening penetrative and cutting power, leaving pitch-black cracks in the space. Swish! As he threw out that sword attack, Yi Chen had already performed his sword steps, which allowed him to barely avoid the countless flying feather attacks. After a few flickers, Yi Chen arrived at Greybird King's left side and used congealing water. Greybird King raised his tattered left wing and welcomed the attack. Boom! With an explosion, Yi Chen was sent flying with blood flowing from his perlicue and his arm feeling numb. Greybird King didn't have it any better. The power of congealing water was transmitted as the core, and his left wing was pierced by the extremely condensed sword energy, injuring his internal organs. Damn it! Greybird King already knew that Yi Chen was powerful, but he was confident that he could suppress Yi Chen and slowly grind the latter to death with his dense demonic energy. However, he didn't expect that because of one wrong move, he would be forced to passively counterattack. How could he be a match for Yi Chen? I'll let you be arrogant for a while. With your strength, you can't injure me and make me lose my combat strength. As long as I can endure this period, I will be able to counterattack. Greybird King calmed down and circulated his undying body to heal his injured body. Seeing that Greybird King wasn't in a hurry to counterattack, Yi Chen knew what the latter was planning. The vertical eye on his forehead opened once more and shot out a thin silver beam of light at Greybird King. I've long been prepared for this move of yours. Greybird King knew from the masked man that Yi Chen's soul attack was extremely powerful. Moreover, his soul defense was also very strong. Therefore, he immediately reacted and used a soul defense secret art. However, he had underestimated the lethality of soul light. Even with the soul defense secret art protecting his soul C, he still felt dizzy for a moment and lost control of his body. Demonic beasts had always been inferior to humans in terms of soul. If it was a human king using a soul defense secret art, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to do anything. Kill! With the soul light taking effect, Yi Chen charged over. On the Sky Scorpio sword, purple crystals covered its body. This was the sign of overloading the crystal's power. Pung! A rain of light sprinkled down as a huge hole appeared on Greybird King's chest. It was a wound that even Limb Regrowth Realm couldn't repair. With one sword, Greybird King was gravely injured. This sword, how can it be so powerful? Spurting out mouthfuls of blood, Greybird King stared at the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand in horror. His protective demonic energy couldn't do much against this sword, shattering like a crystal. Run! Greybird King had never imagined that Yi Chen still had so many undiscovered secrets, such as a soul power comparable to king-grade soul power, and a supreme-grade artifact sword with explosive power. These two secrets were simply asking for his life. With a flap of his wings, Grey Bird King fled in a sorry state, leaving behind a rain of blood. Take another sword of mine. Yi Chen had also underestimated Grey Bird King's strength. He didn't think that he could keep Grey Bird King here, but making the latter lose most of his fighting strength was already his goal. Raising the Sky Scorpio sword, a purple sword light chased after Grey Bird King. Pucci. With his injuries, Grey Bird King's speed was clearly not as fast as usual. Adding the suppression of the sword domain, his speed was even slower, and the purple sword light slashed at his back. With a stagger, Grey Bird King miserably fled into the void. Merak Hammer Strike. The moment Grey Bird King fled into the void, a revolving hammer light tore through the air. The one who attacked was a burly man with a curly beard, his face filled with killing intent. A little troublesome. Yi Chen raised the Sky Scorpio sword horizontally, blocking the hammer light. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere as Yi Chen was sent flying, spurting out a mouthful of blood. In fact, his battle strength was slightly weaker than Grey Bird King's. The reason why Grey Bird King fled miserably was because he didn't expect that Yi Chen would discover him first. Thus, he was caught unprepared and underestimated the power of the soul light, causing him to be stunned. Of course, the Sky Scorpio sword's contribution couldn't go unnoticed. Now, Beard King was attacking from the front, and Yi Chen had lost his advantage against Grey Bird King. Just so, Beard King was overjoyed. He thought that Yi Chen had 3 heads and 6 arms. But now, it seemed that it wasn't that exaggerated. Power Hammer Strike. Holding the pitch-black sledgehammer with both hands, Beard King roared and sent another hammer strike at Yi Chen. The revolving hammer light covered the sky, blocking any path of escape for Yi Chen. Demonic Feather Strike. The most dangerous thing was that Grey Bird King didn't leave. Seeing that Beard King was suppressing Yi Chen, he rushed out and unleashed his innate ability at Yi Chen. Countless feathers also shot toward Yi Chen from all directions. Chapter 897. The two kings used their full strength to seal off any path of retreat for Yi Chen. Apart from forcefully blocking, there was no other way out. However, doing so would cripple him even if he didn't die. Die. Grey Bird King's injuries were very serious. After releasing this attack, his wound had been torn open, causing him to spurt out a huge mouthful of blood. However, compared to killing Yi Chen, this bit of injury wasn't much. I didn't think I'd have to use the Dragon Ball so soon. Facing the powerful attacks of Beard King and Grey Bird King, a golden Dragon Ball appeared in Yi Chen's left hand. He raised it high above his head, and the golden Dragon Ball emitted a dazzling radiance of supremacy. It was as if a small sun had descended in Yi Chen's hand. Roar! A resounding dragon roar shook the heaven and earth, as the silhouette of a golden dragon shot out from the Dragon Ball and circled around Yi Chen's body. Crack! 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 Beard King's hammer light and Grey Bird King's feathers were shattered one after another, unable to advance an inch further. What is this? Beard King was enraged. The pitch-black hammer in his hand swept out vertically, and in the blink of an eye, several hundred revolving hammer lights were shot out. However, this wasn't the end. After several hundred hammer lights, he leaped into the air and smashed the hammer down on Yi Chen's head. This hammer strike contained extreme power, exploding like a collapsing star. Pung! 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 The golden dragon silhouette was extremely powerful. Before Beard King's hammer lights could approach, they were swept away by the golden light. When Beard King's final attack landed, the golden dragon silhouette spiraled into the sky with Yi Chen at the center. The towering dragon horns on its head easily shattered Beard King's explosive hammer lights and sent the latter flying away. Wah! 2 holes appeared on Beard King's abdomen, almost shattering his spine. Although the golden dragon silhouette was illusory, the power it emitted was extremely solid and ferocious. In an instant, Beard King's mouth and nose spurted out blood mixed with golden light. His face was deathly pale as he stared at the golden dragon silhouette in disbelief, not daring to make another move. The energy of the Dragon Balls is limited. They still need to be used to sense the existence of the arcane realm. Yi Chen didn't dare to wantonly use the Dragon Pearl's energy. The energy inside wasn't ordinary, but genuine giant dragon energy. It was even purer than Su Jing's incomplete giant dragon energy. However, Yi Chen couldn't control the giant dragon energy to launch long-range attacks. Otherwise, he wouldn't have minded using it to kill Grey Bird King and Beard King. Go! With the golden dragon image protecting him, Yi Chen tore through space and entered the void. Not good, he's running away. Grey Bird King's injuries were too heavy, so he didn't dare to approach Yi Chen. Seeing Yi Chen break through space, he couldn't help but scream. Can he outrun us in the void? Beard King sneered, and also disappeared into the void. In the void filled with spatial power, Grey Bird King and Beard King chased after Yi Chen from the left and right, not giving him a chance to escape. As long as the golden dragon image's energy was exhausted, or when the masked man arrived, he wouldn't be able to escape death. However, a shocking scene occurred. With the golden dragon image protecting him, Yi Chen's speed was inconceivably fast. In just a blink of an eye, he had already traversed 60 to 70,000 li. He was much faster than them. Damn it, where do you think you're going? Beard King was anxious. The pitch-black hammer in his hand flew out, turning into a streak of light as it smashed towards Yi Chen. At this moment, he would rather give up his weapon than give Yi Chen a chance to escape. Silver Feather Rend. Grey Bird King also didn't want Yi Chen to escape. The few silver feathers on the back of his neck stood up and flew out at a speed even faster than Beard King's hammer. Puff! The golden dragon image was formed from dragon energy. How could they break through it? Apart from a slight sway, Yi Chen's speed increased instead of decreasing. After a while, the two finally lost track of Yi Chen. Damn it! Beard King stopped with an ashen face. This kid is not only powerful, but he also has many treasures. Killing him is easier said than done. Grey Bird King's body rolled and turned back into his human form. A bloody hole had appeared on his chest, and blood was slowly flowing out. The surface of the bloody hole was covered with strands of purple crystals, making it difficult for his injury to heal. We can't kill him, but pursuing Thunder King can. He's only 10 million li away from us now. Beard King's injuries weren't light either. The two bloody holes on his abdomen were dyed with a layer of golden light. If it wasn't for his undying body, reaching the late stage of broken limb regrowth, this strike would have made him lose 90% of his combat power. My injuries are too heavy. If I don't treat them, it might affect my future cultivation base. You go first. I'll wait for pursuing Thunder King here. Grey Bird King had already given up on killing Yi Chen. With Yi Chen's strength and treasures, he would be the one to die in a one-on-one battle. Alright. Beard King also knew that Grey Bird King's injuries were severe. After adjusting his breathing, his figure flickered and shot off. He didn't believe that Yi Chen could maintain such high speed. Only after consuming half of his dragon energy did Yi Chen stop. At this moment, he was already hundreds of millions of li away from Blood Sky Continent. Running away is not the way. I have to enter life and death realm as soon as possible. The dragon energy wasn't under Yi Chen's control. After activating the Golden Dragon Ball, it could only protect his body or attack the approaching enemies. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't dare to use the remaining half of the dragon energy. This was an important tool for finding the secret realm of Dragon God's Celestial Palace and opening it. Every bit of dragon energy he used meant a bit less. I've already sensed the similarities between Death Dao and Life Dao. Let's continue. Finding a small island with lush vegetation, Yi Chen released Dream-Eating Wolf and wholeheartedly tried to verify Life and Death Dao. Roar! Dream-Eating Wolf roared and crouched down. Not being able to help his master deal with the enemy left Dream-Eating Wolf very unwilling. He wanted to increase his realm and reach the peak of the third layer as soon as possible. This way, even mid-step kings would be affected by his Dreamland ability. If he could become a Beast King, he would be able to fight shoulder to shoulder with Yi Chen and deal with any enemy. Life and death, neither life nor death. Yi Chen made life and death chi collide with each other from time to time. At times they would collide slowly, and at other times, they would collide at high speed. Gradually, the aftershocks produced by the collision produced a gray spherical chi cover. Inside the chi cover, life and death chi intertwined. Taiji! Yi Chen's eyes brightened. To comprehend life and death, one only needed to find the connection between Death Dao and Life Dao, and then link them together. There was no need to comprehend them thoroughly, because it was impossible to comprehend them. At this moment, Yi Chen finally grasped the similarities between life and death. The mutual entanglement in pursuit of life and death formed a taiji, allowing him to see the veins. Good. In 3 to 5 days, I'll be able to reach life and death realm in 10 to 15 days. If it was before, the gate of life and death realm was vague to him, seemingly close but actually very far away. But now, the gate of life and death realm had turned from illusory to tangible. He could see and touch it, and it was incomparably clear. All he needed was a bit of force to open the gate. Just as Yi Chen was about to succeed in verifying life and death, Beard King was still chasing after Yi Chen's traces. Behind him, the masked man was also catching up. As for the blood-robed guards, they were already useless. Yi Chen's speed was too fast. By the time they caught up, who knew how long it would take? Of course, there was also the possibility that Yi Chen would turn around midway and escape to their rear. However, this possibility was very small. Once he was surrounded, he wouldn't even be able to escape. Beard King, Ironarm King, Greybird King, and me, the 4 of us will split up. We'll definitely find him again. The masked man had already learned about Yi Chen from Greybird King. He didn't believe that Yi Chen could control the golden dragon image without limit, so he must have escaped to the front and hidden himself. That golden dragon silhouette must be some sort of treasure. However, it's still not enough to stop me. Once I kill him, that treasure will be mine. Increasing his speed, the masked man rapidly teleported in the void. Master is about to succeed. Roar. Dream-eating wolf's recent progress was not small. His realm had actually broken through from the first layer to the second layer. This was all thanks to Yi Chen's verification. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to break through so easily. Once Master breaks through, I should be able to openly appear in the outside world. Dream-eating wolf also knew that he was a rare commodity. If his master's strength was not enough, others would definitely come to fight for him. He was fed up with changing masters, so he hoped that his master would be as powerful as possible. Moreover, he could feel that Yi Chen was a world-shaking genius. Following him, his glory would be limitless. Perhaps one day, he would also be remembered by the later generations. He, Dream-eating wolf, had once followed a peerless expert and fought for countless years, becoming unparalleled under the heavens. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The life and death aura on Yi Chen's body had become increasingly powerful. Later on, it gradually blended together and became indistinguishable. In the surroundings of Yi Chen, the plants would wither and grow rapidly from time to time, similar to the scene in the life and death secret realm. On this day, Dream-eating wolf's ears twitched, and he suddenly stood up. Enemy. Dream-eating wolf was proficient in dream power, and his soul power was also extremely powerful. He could feel the space above the island rippling, and a powerful aura suddenly appeared. Haha, let's see where you can run this time. The masked man broke through the space and appeared in Dream-eating wolf's sight. Awah! Dream-eating wolf roared, and the red fur on his body stood up. This was a sign of extreme danger, and the feeling the masked man gave him was incomparably frightening. All eyes opened, and Dream-eating wolf used his dream power, which spread toward the masked man. Overestimating yourself. The masked man completely ignored Dream-eating wolf's dream power, and easily broke through it, reaching out to grab Dream-eating wolf. Right at this moment, the sky suddenly darkened, and an incomparably huge black hole appeared in the sky. Inside the black hole, boundless energy was compressed together, crazily revolving, and eventually forming a super energy whirlpool. From the whirlpool, a black storm poured down. This is life and death calamity. The masked man turned pale with fright. Chapter 898. Breaking through from the astral reaching realm to the Sea of Souls realm was called the Mortal Transformation Pass. After shedding off the mortal body, one would no longer be immortal. Breaking through to the life and death realm would be the Life and Death Pass. Life and death tribulation was merely a general term. It included heavenly thunder tribulation, wind and fire tribulation, and yuan spirit tribulation. Each tribulation had many variations depending on the individual. Once the life and death tribulation descended, a huge hole would be torn open in the third layer of Elysium, and the boundless energy of heaven and earth would bombard the challenger. The black storm was merely an appetizer. It wasn't the official tribulation yet. However, this appetizer wasn't something an ordinary person could withstand. If it were any other ordinary challenger, they would find themselves in a difficult situation. This black storm was aimed at Yi Chen, a test from the heavens for Yi Chen. With Yi Chen's frightening talent, how could the might of the black storm be weak? Life and death tribulation. He's actually starting the tribulation now. How long has it been? The masked man was both startled and furious. He knew how powerful Yi Chen was. Before breaking through, he could already kill Bloodblade King and gravely injure Greybird King. Once he broke through, how terrifying would he be? Perhaps even he wouldn't be able to take him down. I can't let him break through smoothly. A cold light flickered in the masked man's eyes. Come here. With the descent of the life and death tribulation, Yi Chen immediately stored the dream-eating wolf in his beast token. Otherwise, with the dream-eating wolf's cultivation base at the second layer, it would be annihilated by a single shockwave. Putting away the dream-eating wolf, Yi Chen ignored the masked man and focused his gaze on the black storm. Huff 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 huff. The black storm poured down in torrents, tearing numerous fine cracks in the space. These cracks extended unceasingly, eventually surrounding Yi Chen like a spider web. In the next moment, the black storm swept towards Yi Chen. With Yi Chen's eyesight, how could he not see that this black storm was incomparably sharp, as if it was composed of countless small black swords? Even a mountain or a city would be turned into dust by this black storm. Boom! The entire island was instantly swallowed up by the black storm. Yi Chen's figure could no longer be seen. After about 10 breaths of time, the black storm dissipated. When he looked again, there was no island left. The huge island had been completely destroyed. Not even a trace of it could be seen. It had been completely erased from the sea. What a terrifying storm! The protective Zhen Yuan outside of Yi Chen's body was flickering. It was a sign that the impact was too powerful, causing the Zhen Yuan to fluctuate. It should be known that after Yi Chen had leveled up his Green Lotus Sword spell to Heaven Realm, the quality of his Zhen Yuan was far beyond normal people. His Zhen Yuan circulation speed was also extremely fast. With the two added together, it made his protective Zhen Yuan several times stronger than warriors at the same level. Go to hell! The appetizer had just passed, and the first wave of life and death tribulations had yet to arrive. The masked man suddenly made his move, and it was an ultimate move. The splashing thunder and fire burst out toward Yi Chen. Yi Chen sneered and did not dodge. Boom! The sky suddenly lit up, and the whole world was filled with endless light. In almost 1,000th of a blink of an eye, two lightning-like thunderbolts struck down. One of them destroyed the masked man's attack, while the other landed on his protective Zhen Yuan, not giving him any chance to dodge. Puff! A mouthful of burning blood spurted out, and the masked man was blown back miserably, his body scorched black. Attacking a person going through the tribulation will have to bear the wrath of the world's will. Yi Chen seemed to have known that he would be fine. Activating his undying body, the black scorched skin on the masked man's body disappeared, and he recovered to his normal state. His face was gloomy as he thought to himself, "Damn it! The worlds will indeed interfere. If I continue to attack without caring about anything, the worlds will send a life and death tribulation to me. Moreover, this life and death tribulation's power will be adjusted according to my strength. Even if I can pass it, my cultivation will be greatly damaged." In the past, although the masked man knew that attacking a person going through the tribulation would provoke the world's will, he had never tried it. This time, Yi Chen was right in front of him, so he decided to take the risk. Good. Life and death tribulation is not that easy to pass, especially the last Yuan spirit tribulation, which directly attacks the soul. The moment the life and death tribulation is over, I will kill you immediately. The masked man gave up on the idea of killing Yi Chen right now. He could not do it. Kacha. The black storm was the appetizer, and the heaven thunder tribulation was the main course. Huge thunderballs descended from the sky, smashing towards Yichen. These were not ordinary thunder and lightning, but the heaven thunder tribulation that had been strengthened by the world's will. Its power was unimaginable. Each thunderball had the destructive power to destroy a city. Die! Yichen floated in the sky, waving the evil shattering sword in his hand dozens of times. Sword chi shot up into the sky. Crackle! Thunder balls exploded one after another, filling the sky with electricity. Rumble! After the ball of lightning passed, there was a huge commotion in the world. A mountain-like city, made of lightning, slowly descended from the spinning black hole. A vast pressure swept out in all directions, and the seawater within 500 kilometers caved in by 100 kilometers. The seawater surged out in all directions, causing tsunamis to appear. The Thunder City was filled with 108 thunder dragons. In the center of the Thunder City, there was an even bigger thunder dragon. This thunder dragon's body was like a mountain, and its scales were bigger than a house. It had a pair of dragon horns that looked like two invincible spears that could pierce through the sky. Black destructive thunder gathered on its horns. The Thunder City's appearance caused a doomsday atmosphere to ripple out for millions of li. The demonic beasts under the sea and the birds in the sky shivered in fear. What? The most powerful thunder tribulation, Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation? The masked man couldn't believe his eyes. This Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation didn't appear at all times. Only the most shocking geniuses would have this treatment. Without exaggeration, the appearance of this Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation indicated that Yichen had the chance to become an unparalleled expert, comparable to the ancients. This was because after Yuan Emperor, no one had ever encountered the Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation. Even Xuanho's Thunder Dragon Palace tribulation was a grade lower. The grade of the life and death tribulation was equivalent to telling you the future achievements of the person undergoing the tribulation. Ordinary people who could enjoy the Thunder Dragon Palace tribulation were already peerless geniuses that appeared once in 1,000 years. But if they encountered the Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation, their future achievements would be comparable to the ancients. In other words, Yichen had the chance to break the curse of Yuan Emperor and become the first titled monarch to leave a mark on the Emperor Scar Steel after Yuan Emperor. Shock, anger. The masked man's heart was beating very fast. He originally thought that Yichen was a genius even more powerful than Xianhou, so he had to get rid of him as soon as possible. How could he have known that he had still underestimated Yichen's potential? Yichen's potential might be comparable to his since ancient times, but there was absolutely no one above him. If Lord knew that Yichen's potential was so great, he might have disregarded everything and personally come to kill him, even if he had to face the possibility of being discovered. The masked man quickly thought. Yichen didn't have the time to guess what the masked man was thinking, because his mind was currently completely focused on the Thunder City. This Thunder City was even more frightening than the Thunder Dragon Palace tribulation he had to undergo during the mortal transformation pass. This kind of frightening was not only reflected in its might, because the same Thunder Dragon Palace tribulation was different from the life and death pass. The will of heaven and earth, and the condensation of energy were completely different. During the mortal transformation pass, the strongest thunder tribulation would be the Thunder Dragon Palace tribulation. But during the life and death pass, the strongest thunder tribulation would be the Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation. The Thunder City slowly pressed down, and the depression of the sea water became deeper and deeper. From 100 li, it became 200 li, 300 li, 500 li. Within the perimeter of millions of li, tsunamis and floodwaters filled the sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and a panic-stricken atmosphere spread out. Too powerful. Is he trying to challenge my limits? Yichen thought silently. Break! With the evil shattering sword in his hand, Yichen's spirit, chi, and soul had reached their peak. His tall and straight body went against the tide, and chopped down on the wall of the Thunder City. Clang! Blazing sparks exploded hundreds of li away. A sword mark appeared on the Thunder City, and after a slight shake, It continued to descend. A horrifying pressure acted on Yi Chen's body, causing Yi Chen's protective Zhen Yuan to distort. Congealing water. Seeing that the first sword attack had failed, Yi Chen used his ace attack. The sword power exploded on the city gate, shattering it completely. The sword power roared in the air. Sword dragon art. Congealing water. Bewitching mirror shattering. Even his killing move couldn't do anything to the Thunder City. Yi Chen knew that this Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation wouldn't be easy to pass. He had to go all out and bring out his battle power to the limit. The Sword Snake art required the defensive sword art to reach the level of 33 simultaneous swords, while the Sword Dragon art required 42 simultaneous swords. Above Yi Chen's head, a dazzling semi-extreme grade sword split into 42. The 42 sword shadows combined together and turned into a majestic sword dragon, attacking toward the Thunder City. At the same time, Yi Chen used the evil shattering sword in his left hand and the Sky Scorpio sword in his right, respectively, using his killing moves, congealing water and bewitching mirror shattering. At this very moment, Yi Chen had completely burst out, doing 3 things at once. Boom, boom, boom. After suffering 3 killing moves, the Thunder City finally lost its balance and started to sway. Again, Yi Chen used another 3 killing moves. Clang. The Thunder City was overturned, and the city walls were in tatters. More than half of the 108 Thunder Dragons had been destroyed, and the remaining half had dimmed a lot. Break for me, Yi Chen roared. Sword Dragon art, congealing water, and bewitching mirror shattering landed on the Thunder City for the 3rd time. The berserk energy ripple blasted the Thunder City into a black hole, causing it to dissipate rapidly. It actually blew away the Doomsday Dragon Palace tribulation. The masked man's eyes widened. Normally, the tribulation would succeed 99% of the time. No matter how powerful the tribulation was, since it had descended from the heavens, the probability of passing it was very high. However, it wouldn't be as easy as Yi Chen's. When he was going through his tribulation, he had to slowly whittle away the tribulation's power, instead of facing it head-on. Roar! A majestic dragon roar rang out, and yet another city of lightning descended. The masked man almost vomited blood. What? There's more? Chapter 899. Life and Death Calamity consisted of Sky Thunder Calamity, Wind Fire Calamity, and Yuan Spirit Calamity. Sky Thunder Calamity targeted battle power, Wind Fire Calamity targeted will, and Yuan Spirit Calamity targeted soul. Therefore, even though it was only the first calamity, it was not weaker than the other 2 calamities. The first wave of Doomsday Dragon Palace Calamity had already shocked the masked man. Another wave was simply unimaginable. This wave was still the same Doomsday Dragon Palace Calamity, but its power was much greater and more frightening than the previous one. The 108 Thunder Dragons seemed to have come to life, their roars resounding, and the dragon might spreading out. Boom! The Thunder Dragons shook their heads and wagged their tails, spitting out thunder light towards Yi Chen. The thunder light was as sharp as a heavenly blade, bright and dazzling, appearing in front of Yi Chen in just a flash. Waving the evil shattering sword in his left hand, Yi Chen chopped out one thunder light after another, while the Sky Scorpio sword in his right hand shot out a purple sword chi, bombarding the Thunder City, creating a sky full of sparks and purple light rain. Go! With the sword dragon art formed, Yi Chen chopped towards the unceasing thunder dragons with a single thought. As the thunder dragons were chopped apart, the attacks Yi Chen received became less and less. When all 108 thunder dragons disappeared, the Thunder City was already less than 100 li away from Yi Chen. The berserk pressure seemed to want to crush Yi Chen from the inside out, turning him into a meat paste. His protective Zhenyuan flickered, twisting to the extreme. Go back for me. Crossing the 2 swords, Yi Chen's figure crashed into the Thunder City like a shooting star. With his 5th step spirit body, he dared to withstand the counterforce. Clang! Cracks appeared on the Thunder City, and Yi Chen also spurted out a mouthful of blood. Pung! 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 Again and again, Yi Chen forcefully pushed the Thunder City back into the black hole. However, the moment it was pushed back, the huge thunder dragon in the center of the Thunder City woke up. It raised its head and slightly opened its mouth, shooting out a vast thunder light at Yi Chen's protective Zhen Yuan, blowing him away. His skin was charred black and his body was smoking. Yi Chen was struck into the sea. When he emerged from the sea, Yi Chen's pupils shrank. Above his head was a huge lightning dragon. Berserk lightning revolved around it, and black lightning was condensing on the two horns on its head. Doomsday Dragon. Crazy, he's really crazy. There's another tribulation after the Doomsday Dragon Palace. Could it be that he forcefully increased the tribulation's level? The masked man opened his mouth wide and lost the strength to roar. Roar! The Doomsday Dragon was more than 100 miles long. Its mountain-like dragon claw tore through space and grabbed at Yi Chen. The tip of the claw flickered with lightning, containing a lightning force field. Tis. Yi Chen could feel that the water in his body was evaporating, and his skin was becoming dry. The strong electric shock made his hands and feet weak, and his strength was gradually draining away. Sword Dragon Art. With a surge of his soul power, the sword dragon formed by 42 sword shadows charged towards the dragon claw. Clang! Clang! The dragon claw's power was too great. The sword dragon crumbled upon contact, turning into countless broken sword shadows. However, this move also caused the dragon claw to pause for a moment, and the lightning force field had a flaw. Break! With a wave of the Sky Scorpio sword, one of the dragon claw's fingers was cut off. However, the other claws still struck Yi Chen's body. Because the dragon claw was too huge, like a mountain, Yi Chen was almost crushed into the sea. Break again! The resistance of the sea slowed the dragon claw's speed. Yi Chen pushed his sword domain to the limit, and cut off the second finger. Then the third, the fourth and the fifth. Swish! The purple crystal on the Sky Scorpio sword expanded, turning into a 10-meter-long amethyst sword. Holding the amethyst sword, Yi Chen cut the dragon claw's palm in half. Breaking out of the water, Yi Chen took the initiative to attack the Doomsday Dragon. The Doomsday Dragon's reaction wasn't fast, and its body was pierced by Yi Chen's sword. However, compared to its huge body, this sword's destructive power was nothing. Its long tail swept out, and Yi Chen couldn't avoid it at all. He was sent flying thousands of li away, spurting out mouthfuls of blood, and his right arm was directly shattered. Too powerful. This Doomsday Dragon should have advanced 2-star battle strength, while I'm only mid 2-star battle strength. If I want to pass this tribulation, I can only exhaust it. It doesn't have an undying body, and losing a part of its body will weaken it. The more it loses, the weaker it will be. As long as I can persevere, it'll be fine. The life and death tribulation was aimed at the challenger, and its power would only be a bit higher than the challenger's battle strength. It couldn't be too abnormal, otherwise, who could pass this tribulation? Of course, because Yi Chen's battle strength was too powerful, the life and death tribulation was also very frightening. Other people's life and death tribulations were a bit more powerful than the challenger's, but his life and death tribulation was much more powerful than the challenger's. Sword chi crisscrossed and lightning wreaked havoc. Yi Chen and the 100-li-long Doomsday Dragon continued to fight. Everything within 10,000 li was their battlefield, from east to west, from north to south. From afar, the masked man was watching coldly, pursuing Thunder King. What's going on? Beard King, Iron Arm King, and the heavily injured Grey Bird King rushed over. He's crossing the tribulation. The masked man's title was Pursuing Thunder King. He let out a breath and said slowly, "Crossing tribulation?" Beard King looked over and frowned. What kind of tribulation is this? Why is it so frightening? If I encountered this tribulation back then, I would have died instantly. A tribulation even more frightening than the Doomsday Dragon Palace. The masked man's eyes flickered with a cold light. What? Isn't the Doomsday Dragon Palace the most powerful tribulation among all the lightning tribulations? It has been since ancient times. Beard King, Iron Arm King, and Grey Bird King turned pale with fright. They already had a bad premonition when they saw Yi Chen's tribulation. Now that Yi Chen's tribulation was this frightening, wouldn't his future accomplishments be even more frightening? This kid must be eliminated. The masked man said these words coldly. He must be eliminated. Beard King and the other two also said resolutely. When he crosses the Yuan spirit tribulation, and his soul is at its weakest, we'll attack together, and not give him any chance to struggle. Grey Bird King gnashed his teeth. Rumble. After such a long battle, Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan was drained like water. Only 1/10 of his Zhen Yuan remained. Fortunately, the Doomsday Dragon's battle power had also fallen from high-grade 2 stars to low-grade 2 stars. It could no longer block Yi Chen's attacks. Another moment passed, and the Doomsday Dragon's body had shrunk to a few dozen li. Its battle power had fallen from 2 stars to 1 star, and then from high-grade 1 star to low-grade 1 star. Pucci. Purple sword radiance blossomed as Yi Chen slashed the Doomsday Dragon apart. I finally crossed the tribulation. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. He still had a trace of Zhen Yuan left in his body. If his Zhen Yuan had been exhausted before the Doomsday Dragon was killed, he would have been the one to die. Although the success rate of life and death tribulation was high, there were still cases of failure. Out of 100 people, there would always be 1 or 2 who failed and died. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.